Well, thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Anna Hall Stroud, and I'm with Paul Hone Associates Insurance. And with us from the agency is also Justin Holbrook. And we are honored today to have Matt Ludwig here from Nationwide Agribusiness. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Matt Ludwig, I'm risk management department for Nationwide Agribusiness. This summer will be 10 years in the industry. So I go out and I inspect farms, I talk to farmers, I talk to folks and consult on a variety of safety issues, and much of which are the topics we're talking about today. So I look forward to participating in the program.
Awesome. Good deal. And thanks so much for joining us. Today, specifically, we're going to be focusing on truck and road safety, both on the truck piece and the equipment piece. We all have a lot of clients who are either on the road or have employees on the road, maybe even have kids on the road. Some of those people are in really large vehicles, semi trucks and trailers. So whether they're delivering goods in a large vehicle or a smaller vehicle, can you tell us just some basics of road safety and some things that maybe our farm owners can really be paying attention to, and what maybe those first three things they should consider if you could list three at the top?
Yeah, if I were to be pinned down on three, I would say condition of the vehicle, condition of the equipment. So ensuring it's in good working order. We've got all the safety equipment operational, and then operator competency. So training of the operator, especially for those big vehicles. Are we experienced in operating bigger vehicles, especially on road with the motoring public? And also knowing your environment. Some of the things that we see is, we're going from roads to fields and onto farms, and maybe there's gravel roads. There's a lot of environmental kind of challenges that we have, especially operating the bigger vehicles. But really, road safety comes down to a couple things. Remain distraction free. Do not be distracted behind the wheel. And believe it or not, I don't drive a truck, but I drive a vehicle. I travel a large territory, and what I see when I'm driving on the highway as a safety guy just makes me cringe. I've seen, you name it, I've seen it. And usually when I get talking to truck drivers, I ask them, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen in a truck on the road? And I had a guy last week tell me a woman shaving her legs. It's the first
Oh,
time I'd ever heard that answer. Heard a lot of answers. Usually it's reading books, watching movies, putting on your makeup, that shaving your legs, but it's crazy. So distractions permeate our work life, either on and off the road. So any operator of these kind of vehicles, be in the now, focus on the job at hand, and kind of keep distraction free.
So Matt, Nationwide has a program and an initiative called Drive for Five. Can you break that down a little bit for us? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Drive the Five is an acronym. Drive is an acronym, and it's the five letters of Drive. And briefly, the D stands for distraction free. So that's encouraging our drivers to stay focused, avoid distractions in their own vehicles, as well as understanding what distractions look like in the vehicles around us. The R is rested and alert. We promote the importance of adequate rest, alertness while driving, medications, impairment free. That's the I. So if you're on medications, drive impairment free of influence of drugs and alcohol. The V is vehicle maintained. So one of the three things I talked about just a second ago were condition of the vehicle, maintaining that the regular vehicle checks, maintenance, and inspections are up to date. And then the last is environment aware, encouraging drivers to be aware of their driving conditions and adapt to their surroundings. And this campaign has all kinds of resources on our website that can be obtained for our customers, handout cards, speaker notes. There's a whole presentation, a whole PowerPoint deck with presentations that you can present to your drivers at your farm. And I encourage people to go out and kind of peruse what's out there.
awesome. Thanks so much. And I was just mentioning when we were talking before this, we've actually had a client use some of these with their own employees because they wanted, us or Nationwide to be more of the bad guy to make sure that the employees were all on the same page about driving distracted free and impairment free. So a lot of
Yep,
resources that we would love to help any of our farmers find if they feel that it could be beneficial.
for
So if
sure.
we're thinking specifically about semis and trailers, what are two things that our drivers and owners need to be conscious of when they're behind the vehicles of these larger vehicles?
So the number one cause or type of accident that we see across all of our large vehicle fleets, when we look at a huge data of claims data, it's rear end accidents. And it's following and stopping distances really are where the rubber hits the road. Okay. And if we want to move the needle positively for big truck type of crashes, following distance and stopping distance is vital. So drivers need to understand these big vehicles do not stop as fast as regular vehicles, especially when loaded. So that requires more space between us and the car in front of us. And you couple that with all the distractions of the motoring public as well. I see people slamming on their brakes all the time. And if I'm a truck driver and I'm behind a car, I want to give myself adequate space to stop my vehicle. And then the next one is limiting distractions. And we talked about that. 5 years ago, I used to do a defensive distracted driver training class, and distractions were number 4 for the cause of on-road incidents. It was speeding, impaired driving, reckless driving, and distractions were number 4. That was 5 years ago. Distractions are now number 1. It is the number 1 cause of accidents. So we got rear end accidents is the most common type of accident. Distractions is the number 1 cause. And they go hand in hand, right? You see rear end accidents where somebody was looking at their phone, they looked up, and all of a sudden traffic stops in front of them. If you're in a truck, you need extra space to get stopped, and those can have catastrophic consequences.
So as you know, Matt, road safety comes in 2 pieces for our operations. We've got the trucks and the trailers and the heavy trucks, but then we got the mobile equipment, whether it be the combines or the tractors. And typically in the rural part of the states where we're at, the equipment is typically larger and maybe crosses a line here or there. Can you talk to us a little bit about safety on mobile equipment?
Oh, absolutely. We do a really nice presentation on rural road safety, and this is what we talk about. We talk about those slow moving vehicles. So whether we're trailering equipment or we're operating, saying taking a sprayer from field to field, and we have to go on regular roadways, but these are rural roads. So some of the characteristics of a rural road sometimes is there's no shoulder, or it's gravel, or it's grass, and we have a field ditch. So there's not a lot of room to wiggle these larger pieces of equipment that are wider, higher, and sometimes do kind of cross the line. We have to be cognizant of the fact of sometimes if they're carrying liquid, they're top heavy. So if a full sprayer will have liquid, so they can have rollover potential. So what we like to tell our operators is, a good vehicle inspection ahead of time, adjust your mirrors to minimize blind spots in and around the vehicle. And to do that properly, Justin, you need 2 people. We need somebody in the cab who's going to operate the vehicle, and somebody walking around the back to identify, where the blind spots are, and then how do we adjust our mirrors to minimize them. We're not going to eliminate them 100%, but if we can minimize the blind spots, the better visibility we have as operators. And then keep our lights clear. They get muddied sometimes, going through fields. They can get mucked up with grime, and sometimes not. They're not illuminated as clearly for the motoring public to see. So keep lights clear, visible. And then where we see a lot of our issues is when this type of equipment are making left turns into fields that aren't regularly marked as a turn. So, the 4 or 5 cars stacked up behind my sprayer, they don't see a road, they don't see a driveway, but our sprayer's about to turn left into a field because that's the field entrance. And then we have people trying to pass us on the left when we're trying to do that. So, early signaling, early brake application to slow the line down. Hopefully somebody doesn't pull out, to your left. And we've seen a lot of left side accidents with our guys turning left into a field that's not clearly marked as a turn, and the motoring public doesn't know it's there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. That's something I think we've all seen, or we've been behind the combine when people do some silly things to try and get around sometimes. So slowing down is always the best thing for it. It doesn't typically cost us that much time in the long run. So
That's right.
thank you so much, Matt. We appreciate you
Sure.
joining us today, and look forward to using this information and the additional information on the Drive 5 to help our operators in the future.
Glad to help.